I was always into fashion. And then as a plus size person, would always get asked, stopped in restaurants, stopped in nightclubs, like, where did you buy that? I can't find any clothes. And, you know, my sister-in-law and my best friend were just so encouraging. And they were like, you should totally go out there and put that message out there. There are so many people who don't know where to shop or how to shop. I think I did a piece in my very early Instagram of how to navigate shopping websites as a plus size person to find what you're looking for.
Welcome to the Bariatric Nutrition Coach Podcast, where we empower you with weight loss surgery, nutrition knowledge, mindset advice, and inspiration so you succeed in your weight and health journey. I'm your host, Jane Stoltz, and I am a bariatric dietitian who has helped over 1,300 people on their weight loss surgery journeys. I'm also a solo mum, lover of long walks while listening to podcasts, partial to a glass of wine, and the ocean is my happy place. Join me as I dive deep into bariatric nutrition and lifestyle topics and deliver them to you in bite-sized, palatable episodes every Monday. Now let's go. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Bariatric Nutrition Coach Podcast. And I am saying this giggling because I've got a lovely guest today, Laura Sheedy, and we were just joking about how I'm going to get into my podcast zone because I do tend to find my voice changes a little bit, and it doesn't need to, but it just kind of happens that way. So I've got lovely Laura here, and you're going to hear in a minute a beautiful Irish accent. I met Laura on Instagram, where I do meet quite a few wonderful people, because that's one of the positives of social media. You get to kind of connect with people all over the world. And I was immediately attracted to Laura's Instagram. Amazing eyebrows, red lipstick, great eyelashes, fashion, and that's the fun stuff, but also some of her message and what she talks about and what her Instagram's about is also a really powerful message, and we're going to talk all about that today. So I could go on and on, but I am going to welcome the lovely Laura to say hello and introduce herself.
Hello world. It's so funny, isn't it, with podcasts, like you don't know how many people are listening, but hello everyone, that is. So thank you for the lovely introduction. I love that you spoke about my eyebrows. I literally just had them done yesterday as well, so they're extra prominent. Yeah, so as you said, my name is Laura and my Instagram handle is Living Life Curvaceously. So the name of that Instagram took some teasing out and trying to get your message into the name and everything like that. Anyway, I chose the longest Instagram handle possible, so it's come back to haunt me in that sense. But anyway, yeah, so my page is just about my life and how I live it, and I am a curvy girl, and that's where the name came from.
Beautiful. I had it, but I lost my little post-it note. I'm trying little post-it notes just to remind me of the questions, things I want to chat about. And it was like living... It's really around one of in your Instagram bio is like living your best life, plus size. And so we're going to get into that. You had little sun icons on either. So it's really bright. You're bright, you're bubbly. You have great choice of music on your reels when you're doing different fashions. So it really appeals to me. So wonderful. Also, well, first thing I want to say before I get to the Aussie connection, when you say, hello world, when you have a podcast and you don't know who's going to listen, and then when you see the statistics, because you can go into your podcast and look at where people listen, and it's just amazing the countries that there are people listening to my podcast. And while the majority US and say Australia and UK, those countries, that's the wonderful thing about podcasting is you can have a lovely woman in Cuba that's listening to you, us, and I don't know, really connecting with what you're talking about. So do you consider yourself part Aussie?
Part Aussie. Like, I will never let go of my Aussie roots. I will never let go of my Aussie life. And I remember when I moved home, so we should give the backstory. I lived in Sydney for 5 years, and then I made the move home in 2018, and I had just moved home in the June. And I had booked a flight back out by the August to come back out in 2019. And I remember my brother just singing to me, like, let it go. I was like, no, I will never let go of Australia, never. So, yeah, and I still have very good friends there. And my dream is to get back there.
Yes, beautiful. I think you shared that with me in Instagram. It reminded me because after university, there wasn't a lot of jobs as a dietitian in Perth in Australia. And I went eastern states and I worked with the Royal Flying Doctors. And then I went to London because that's what you did as Aussies.
Yeah, it's like the Irish in Australia.
Yes, we went over there. And I remember I came back and it took me about 3 months to settle. Like I literally was looking up plane flights and you just have that. But I'm sure your family and friends are very happy that they've got you now.
Yeah.
You never know.
My Aussie friends wouldn't think so. They're like, they
Yeah.
stole you back. I was like, well, your family. Yeah. God, it feels like a lifetime ago, but I can still so vividly remember everything about it. But
Yeah, beautiful.
great. Good time.
Well, today in Perth, I mean, it's not Sydney, but Sydney also gets hot. We've got like 38 degrees today, which is around getting close to 100 Fahrenheit. So, Laura, I'd love to go back to the beginning of your Instagram. Like, why did you decide to set it up? What was the intention? How has it evolved? All of that. I'd love to hear more about that.
So when I set it up, it was April 2020. So we were just at the cusp of that great time, big COVID. And I think the whole influencer time, it was really starting to take off then. And I was always into fashion. And as a plus size person, would always get asked, where did you buy that? I can't find any clothes. So my sister-in-law and my best friend were just so encouraging. And they were like, you should totally go out there and put that message out there. There are so many people who don't know where to shop or how to shop. I think I did a piece in my very early Instagram of how to navigate shopping websites as a plus size person to find what you're looking for. And yeah, I think we were still at the era where plus size people had no voice or were not really represented, but people were there and they did have things and clothes and fashion, but it just wasn't really out there. So that kind of was why I started, was the fashion side. But then like my sister-in-law and like my friends were just like, you're so silly that people would follow you, like you'd be enjoyable to watch. So I was like, okay, so I'll just go and be myself and say the things that I say. And that was kind of it. So then it was a joint effort. It takes a village to come up with the name, and there was like a cross list. And then it just sort of was like, just go for it and just try. And that's like you were saying about podcasts as well. Instagram is the same. There's a space for everybody and you just go at it. And then I had another friend whose friend was in the kind of marketing side. So she had a chat with me about how to try and develop it a little bit. And yeah, just sort of went from there. So it started as fashion and just sort of being me and plus size. And yeah, I think just giving people somewhere to see someone that looked like them, just doing the everyday thing that seemed out of reach as a plus size person, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I think people got over pretty well. I did pretty quickly of seeing just the stick thin, young
Fashionist.
Yes. And it's not real. And also, I mean, as a dietitian, I got over seeing like 22-year-old dietitians that have just been graduated and what they eat in a day, and they're naturally kind of just genetically. Anyway, so I call it just keeping it real and sharing reality. And that's where people relate to you because, yeah. And so did you enjoy it? What's been the journey so far? Because Instagram, we can have a love-hate relationship with it. And well, I do. Sometimes I don't always want to be in front of a camera, but then you get lovely comments and you feel you can really connect with people. How's it been going for you over these 5 years?
I can't believe it's been 5 years. Actually, just before the podcast went right back and was like, when did I start this? 5 years. It's crazy. But yeah, it's been like ebbs and flows, up and down, up and down. It's definitely, you need to put a lot into it to get it back. I have a solid foundation of followers now who follow me intently. Like I had a comment the other day, I've followed you since the beginning. It's so lovely to see you come full circle. All of these comments, and they're my hardcore fans. But the people that dip in, dip out, follow, you need to be constantly going for them. And I suppose it's not my full-time job. I do have a full-time job that takes me out in the evenings, and I have a lot of commitments that the Instagram side, I suppose, sometimes gets left down. And you know, I'll pick it back up again. I suppose at the moment it's just been a little bit calmer. But I have a few bits there now to record, and I need to just get back into the flow of it. And I'm sure you've seen that on Instagram as well, that people say, oh, I've lost my mojo, I don't know what to say. And you kind of sometimes then you're getting so focused on what I need to do for brands or collaborations that you forget all the normal fun stuff that was what people started following you for in the first place. So it's a funny journey. Yeah,
it is. So you started with the fashion, and that was part of the beginning, but you really ventured more into, and I asked this question to you before we jumped and we started recording. We thought, oh no, we'll chat about it here, about body acceptance, or what terminology do you like to use? Body acceptance, there's body positivity.
Yeah. The body positivity movement, it gets a lot of hate on Instagram because people will shout, you're promoting obesity, you're promoting unhealthiness. That's not normal. People who are fat know they're fat. They know the struggles of being in a bigger body and the struggles that are there. People that are constantly berating them for putting themselves online became this toxic place about positivity. And but then it sort of shifted to acceptance. Like, I am just a person living my life and existing in a bigger body, and I am accepting that. So you should accept it too. Why do you need to push against it? So the positivity thing, this is now my opinion and what I've seen shifting. So I'm not saying this is gospel, but it's just what I've learned from it. So the body positivity, it started out as pushing being plus size and I'm here and look at me and all of that kind of stuff, where now it's sort of shifted to, it's just this like, I'm just trying to accept who I am and to try and live my life without feeling like I have to change everything about me. And that was kind of what I think was the shift between the positivity and the acceptance. So you're still being positive about yourself. So it's not necessarily that you're promoting obesity or being fat or being bigger person. It's more just, I'm just being who I am, and I'm just trying to accept who I am without every single day of my life feeling I need to change, because that mantra that goes around and around and around is so weighted. So yeah, sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
Yeah, no. When I love tangents, I don't think that it's just people, and on my podcast, it's about people who've had bariatric surgery and all of it. But this is really a conversation for every woman who we get messages that whatever you're not, how you are is not okay, and it should be different. What underlies that, because I do a lot of work with my clients about leaving the dieting mentality of, it's not about being on or off, it's about accepting, feeling like you want to move forward and change your health and all of that, but giving yourself permission to look after yourself. So I talk a lot about self-care, and even though self-care doesn't have to be massages and baths and all of that kind of cliche, self-care can be putting on clothes that you feel really great in, putting your makeup on and feeling really good, and giving yourself things so you don't have to wait till you get to that weight. When I get to that weight, I can do this. Or when I get to that, I can put that dress on or wear that kind of dress. Because also when you are in more of a positive space, it's easier then to look after yourself. Have good health habits and be healthy. And so,
I had a full circle moment last year. I was on holidays in Turkey. I suppose we actually should say that I have had bariatric surgery in the midst of all that, but we'll come back to it. But so I had lost a significant amount of weight, but Stephen and I were going to go on a hot air balloon ride. And in my head, I was panicking because of weight restrictions, because in another life before I lived in Sydney, I had traveled Australia and got refused a skydive because they were like, look, your weight is just on the cusp of it, but because of how it'll cut into you and stuff, we just think you'd be uncomfortable. And that was fine. That stuck with me and I held on to that. Even though I had lost the amount of weight that I had, I was still in a panic. But then I realized, because I was so open to ask the tour guide, oh, is there any weight restrictions on the hot air balloon? And he was like, oh, I'll just check that out for you before we make the journey. Came back, nope, there's not, that's fine. I was like, oh, great, that's amazing. Now I can feel comfortable going there. So it was a real full circle moment for me, because I wasn't like riddled with anxiety thinking, oh God, they're going to turn me away. I was just like, hey, can you just check out the weight restriction for me? And I was confident to just check it out. And it was a really big moment for me, myself. I've never even said that to anybody. This is like, I'm letting the inner thoughts of my mind come out here. But it was a big moment for me that I was totally okay to just ask that question. And
Yes.
that for me is acceptance.
Acceptance, beautiful. Yes. I'm not going to bury it down being kind of the ostrich. And yeah, you talk also a lot about inner voice. And that's something
Yes.
that we definitely had down to chat about, because I really relate. And I'm having something in a kind of from a business side of like listening to my voice. When did that come up as, we could say, a practice for you? Or I'd love to hear more about it.
I think when I first moved home from Australia, I was struggling. I struggled to settle back in. You said it took you 3 months. I was like, "Ooh, took me definitely 2 years." And I went to some counseling. He was like, "What is going on for you?" And being the very organized person I am, I had my list and I was like, "Well, this and this and this and this and this." And he just was just like, "Just stop, just stop. Close your eyes for a minute and just relax and be with your thoughts. And what thoughts are coming through for you?" And for me, it was all negative. I need to fix this. I need to change that. I need to do this. And he gave me this piece of paper and I still have it. I keep it in my bedside locker. And it had this story of the two wolves. Have you heard this? It's like an
No.
old proverb. And it's basically you have two wolves in your mind, a negative wolf and a positive wolf. And the more you feed one over the other, the bigger, the stronger, the more prominent they become. So if we are constantly feeding our negative wolf in our mind, that's the one that's going to take front and center, that's going to fill your mind. Whereas if we flip that and fill the positive wolf with all of the good stuff, that's the more prominent one. And his task for me was every time you think a negative thought about yourself, stop and think 3 positive, so that you're trying to push out that negative. You can still be negative about yourself because that's acceptance as well. Like, I need to do better at this. That's fine. But look at all these things that I'm doing really great at as well. So we're trying to keep the balance of what's going on in our mind. And it was profound for me. And I just really put my mind to it. I'm going to do what he tells me to do because this is his job and I'm going to really believe what he's saying. And it just changed my mindset completely. Like, it was just profound. And we can do all that outward stuff, like the dopamine dressing that you're saying, and that self-care and providing outwardly for yourself. But the person you talk to most is yourself. So if you're being so hard on yourself in your mind, it's very hard to be outwardly nice to yourself because all you're thinking is, I'm not good enough. I'm this, I'm that. So it's that simple. If you have one negative thought about yourself, back it up with 3 of them. And just getting into that cycle of, I'm talking negatively to myself, I need to be more positive. And the more you tune into that, the more you realize just how negative you're being to yourself. And then you can
wonderful.
jump in.
I haven't heard that proverb, but I totally get that concept and I totally agree. First thing that it comes up is, I think, when I'm working with clients, one of the steps is we kind of get more, I call it awareness. And that's that reflection component first, of being really aware of what's actually there, maybe. And I think until you actually ask yourself to really pay attention, often we're talking to ourselves, not saying nice things, and we're not even aware of it. And it's not a joke. It's kind of like someone talking to a group and saying your inner voice, and they say it's that little voice in your head. Learning to listen to it first. And then the other challenge is, I find, Laura, and this is an activity I get clients to do, especially when we go into that, I call it fall in a pothole and just can think about all the negative, is to write a list of all the positives. And like write a list of all the small and big goals they've met, or even just things they've done for themselves, positive things. And that's actually harder to do than the negative.
Yeah. Oh, massively hard. It's a very big skill. And like you're saying, it is 2-part. First off is identifying that actually you are being really hard on yourself in your head. And the little carousel of thoughts, that's what I always say, it's on the carousel. It's like I vision my brain as a merry-go-round, and like your thoughts about yourself, the things you need to remember, the list you're writing, it goes around. And that bit, the thought about yourself, goes around very quickly. And you talk to yourself very much so. And until you tune into that, you don't realize how hard on yourself you're actually being.
Oh, and that's the whole thing of saying you talk to yourself like you would a friend. Most of us don't. We talk to us terribly. And I think some people can get really shocked when they do really listen to what they're saying to themselves and then verbalize it or put it down on paper. So you were asked to combat one negative thought with 3 positives. Were they positives about you as a person or things you've achieved, or what were their guidelines on what those 3 things should be?
Anything. I think at that stage he was just like, just say anything nice about yourself.
I like the nail color I chose and my life.
That was really funny. When we sat there, he was like, say something nice about yourself. And I was like, I can't. And he was just like, I've only met you. And he's like, I've known you an hour. And here's all the things that I have learned about you and that I think are really positive about you in 1 hour of knowing you. And you can't tell me one nice thing. And I was like, oh, okay. So it was a really big thing. Yeah, like it can be, for me, it was a lot around looks and my worth being connected to how I looked. And when I really got into the grips of it, I was just like, just because I'm bigger, it doesn't make me less of a sister, less of a best friend, less of a daughter, less of my career as an early childhood specialist. None of those things are affected by how I look. So why am I putting so much weight on it when those are the things that are the most important?
Yes. And you're not worthy of what other people have if they're in a smaller body. I think that is really so beautiful. What is it now like for listening to that inner voice? Is that the practice now that you're really practice at just checking in on what you're saying to yourself?
Yeah. And like, I don't want to sound preachy in this because it's not linear. It's not a straight road. And I can have times where I'm feeling really low. And that's when I'll know I need to put in a little bit of effort. So it's not effortless. It's not something that just comes naturally. It's something that I have to continually work at. And I still have highs and lows. And if my lows are dragging on a little bit, I'll be like, I'll have to check in with myself. Hold on a second now. What have I let slip here? Is it the inner voice? Is it the getting out for a walk? All of those things that I know are my happy place. What have I let fall and what have I let slip? So, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And so what impact do you feel that, because that was obviously a really pivotal moment for you to go and talk to somebody and say, like, I want to change. I don't want to feel like this anymore. Like, what impact has it had in your life? And I mean, it's had an impact on your wonderful Instagram, but just generally in your bigger picture in your life.
I think I've gotten better at doing for myself, and not, I don't mean in the self-care sense, but like I go places that I want to go, or I spend time with people I would like to spend time with. And I'm not afraid to shy away from things now. And I suppose that's a grown-up thing, or where I am in my life, I don't know, but I'm very aware of things that make me not feel good, that put you in that space. So I'm very, I suppose, what am I trying to say? Yeah, I think just
a bit more awareness and leaning into being in the positive. So,
and spending time with people that have a positive impact on you and not leave you feeling like your mind racing, and just in general being a bit more myself. And yeah, it was funny. And it's like when I remember going back to when I started counseling and thinking, oh God, this is going to be a big journey. And in actual fact, the hardest part of the whole journey was that first phone call, the first phone call to say, I need help. And when you say that to people, I don't think they really believe you until they do it. And they make that first phone call and you go, oh, I feel better already for just stepping in and saying that I needed a bit of help. So
beautiful. Can I ask, where did that reaching out for help come in your bariatric journey? Was it part of your book form?
Yeah. And I do think about that a lot, that I think had I gone into having bariatric surgery prior to that, I would have been relying on the bariatric surgery to make me happy. But I think I needed to be in the headspace of I'm okay with me, but I want to be better. And that was actually a big moment in my Instagram journey as well, because a lot of people were following me. I'm plus size, this is my life. And that's that difference between positivity and acceptance. I was living my life. I wasn't being restricted because of my weight. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to be that I want to change things or switch things up. And I didn't outwardly say I was having bariatric surgery on my page. And when I did, I had to approach it really sensitively. I'm still me, I'm still who I am. I'm just making changes for my overall health and well-being. And yeah, I think I had to be in that space to be able to take on the bariatric surgery. And not that that was going to fix the mental side. I feel like my mental health needed to be stronger to take on the bariatric.
Yep, beautiful. So you started, I call it the hard work, which is the emotional work. And for some people, it comes after bariatric surgery in the sense that they hit a wall and they really get that they need to do some work around a relationship with food in their body because the surgery hasn't fixed, like, which often more than I would like to hear. And I want to ask you something about this in a minute, but more than I'd like to hear of people feeling that the bariatric surgery is like, when I've lost weight, I will have better relationships and I will feel better about myself and I'll be happier. Then people can actually even get to a weight that they had in mind, and then they can fall in a bit of a heap because actually I don't feel better about myself. Things haven't really changed. My clothes size are smaller. Other things have come up because with things after bariatric surgery, relationships can change. And I call it things are in the face, like, oh my goodness, my relationship with food, my body is not as good as I thought it was. I just thought it was this and this. So I can see you nodding. I'm going to stop talking.
Yeah, because it's really interesting because I don't think I've done any of the healing with food, whereas I did all the mental stuff. But I would still very much consider I don't have a good relationship with food. I was in that acceptance phase, and I think it's really important for me to be able to accept. So when I had my bariatric surgery, I lost 50% of my excess body weight, and my surgeon was saying, oh, we would look between 50 and 70%. So I had lost 50, and I went for one of my checkups, and he was like, you've only lost 50%. And it knocked me so bad. And I got into that, like, oh God, you failed at this as well. And that negative mindset. And I was like, hang on a second. 50% of your body weight, your excess body weight, is a massive amount of weight. And for him to disregard that because it wasn't the percentage he was looking for, it took me a while to get that around. And I think that my relationship with food and sugar particularly is probably why I didn't get to that 70%. And I do wonder, had I have done a bit more in that realm about that, would I have gotten that 70%? Obviously, I know the journey's not ended now, but that was a really big moment for me in my own acceptance as well, where I'm like, okay, I need to accept that this is my journey and it's not his journey, and he's looking for his statistics. And that was a big acceptance piece for me.
Yeah. And you got it. That's very correct. When you say that, and I've heard that so many times where the doctor will say just a short sentence and it's off the cuff for them. They are looking at their patients as part of their practice and the percentages of BMI points, and they will say something. And because their role as a doctor surgeon, and people want to do their best, and I think that there's that kind of the doctor knows best, and if I can make them happy, and I want to make them happy, and I want to get told I'm doing really well. Few short words can be so powerful. I've had it so many times with clients of really working with them to park those comments to the side. They're an off-the-cuff comment and it's not reality, and it's just somebody's short view. And so that is wonderful that you could work through that, because it can be quite a significant derailer for people. And I had a client that finished, she's on a podcast some time ago, and she went to see her surgeon and he said, well, that's it, I don't think you're going to lose any more weight. And she wasn't happy, but also I was like, no, let us just, and she kept on losing weight. It had slowed down, definitely, because she was further down the track, but it's just part of that. So that's actually, it comes up quite a lot, Laura. That's why I just wanted to pick that up. But I'm so glad that you managed to work through that and just say, exactly, you do not know how much weight you are going to lose after your bariatric surgery. There are so many variables. We don't actually have as much control as you think or would like on your weight after your surgery. Just do the best. And it's also a journey. It's not about perfection. And it's a lifelong journey. Isn't it much nicer if you accept yourself every step of the way and acknowledge the things that you have done, not the things that you haven't done? Because we can all
And it can sway the other way as well. And to be realistic about it all, if we live in this acceptance world and it nearly becomes toxic acceptance, we're not moving forward either. So it's not to say that we want the negative wolf to completely disintegrate and we're not going to feed him at all, because obviously that want to change and those things in your mind are what drive you forward. It just means that we need to be nicer to ourselves about it. I still want to lose weight, but I'm not going to absolutely berate myself because I'm not losing weight at the moment. It's to find that balance between accepting where you're at right now and how you are.
Yes. And I sometimes will use the word even surrendering, kind of just, and maybe that's not now I have this conversation with clients and they will say that can maybe feel like, and I think even the body acceptance can feel like giving up. And that's what you're saying. It's not giving up. I'm not saying that I'm not going to move forward in my health journey and do things, improve health and all of that. Yeah. So I think that's a really good, maybe it can, several people have said to me, it triggers that feeling of I'm just acceptance or surrendering to where you are now, just is feeling like I'm giving up. Because the dieting mindset is about you are not fine, you're not okay where you are, you need to do better. And it's going to start on Monday and you're going to do X, Y, and Z. And I recently have talked quite a bit online about why maintenance can be the hardest phase after bariatric surgery. So we have the weight loss phase, with pre-op phase, the early weight loss, and then the main weight loss phase. And then we get to maintenance. I've had so many clients go, I don't know what this looks and feels like because I've been in a diet my whole life. I'm either losing weight or putting it back on. And it's actually about acceptance and not being so reactive to going off track and not being so hard on yourself.
And I would be technically in that maintenance phase if you were to go by the chronological timeline of bariatric. And I'm playing with 4 kilos, up 1, down 2, up, this back and forth, back and forth. I keep checking in with myself and saying, you haven't put back on all of the kilos that you have lost. So you are maintaining where you're at. Like 3 kilos between friends is not a whole heap, to be honest. And in the cycle of a month and all of that, it's up, down, up, down. But I'm really trying to check in with now and change my mindset around how the food I'm eating is making me feel rather than scales, because the sad step, that scales really gets in me and it's still there. That diet culture, all of that is there. When I'm eating well and I'm getting my walks in, mentally, I'm much better. And that's what I'm trying to channel. You can eat that if you want to, but just remember how you're going to feel then and your energy levels and your mindset and all of those kind of things.
Yeah. So you are in maintenance because like 5 kilograms up and down is considered maintenance. But for some people, like 0.5 kilogram is triggering. So that's something that I work with people to loosen up a bit because that's just, we are going to go up and down. Also, I say it, and not tongue in cheek, but I'm going to really challenge you. Guess what? You never have to weigh yourself again if you don't want to. You can weigh yourself, but we don't have to weigh ourselves. And that can be kind of, it's not necessarily that you have to get to that point, but it can challenge that. What's that relationship with that scales? And I joke a lot about it because the metal, piece of plastic metal has this power. And I say, what is it? Are we codependent? Do we want to have a bit of time apart? Do you want to start not seeing each other every so often and not so regularly? Because that lifelong being triggered by a number has too much power. And I love also what you're talking about, which is listening to your body more. And I talk a lot about the hunger and fullness cues and wanting to feel good and fostering that as that positive of how does food make me feel and finding balance. And I think that's a really tough long-term goal after bariatric surgery for when I'm working with clients. But I love that, how you're going to feel.
Yeah. And I don't want it to sound like I am preaching this and I am perfect in all of this. I'm absolutely not. And I think that's really important for people to see. Like my Instagram persona would think that I have it all sewn up, but I absolutely do not. And this is something that I have to work on every single day. And it's not like every single day is perfect. It's absolutely not. Like life happens, things get in the way. And I do go into slumps and I can feel that in myself. And like I do have anxiety and, all of those kind of things are my bigger picture. And I can talk about all of the things that I aspire to do and that I aim to do. And these are my aspirations, but it doesn't happen every single day. And that's okay too. And that's part of the acceptance as well, that we don't have to be perfect in all of this. We're just trying, and trying is the best we can do in our current situation.
Perfect. And that's not dieting mindset. That is actually really great maintenance. You're going to go off track at some point because you're human. Life puts us off track. Things trigger us, changes our mindset. So if you think about you going down the track, you're going down your road, say on the road, there's the cat's eyes. Do you say cat's eyes in Ireland, the little bump things on the side of the road? Do you not have them? You don't have them. You're lovely. You have your stone fences. We don't want to hit the stone fence when we go off track. But in Australia, you hit the side of the road where you kind of, if you fall asleep a little bit, you drift off and you hit the cat's eyes.
Oh, yeah. Maybe they are called cat's eyes and I just don't know.
My memory of Irish roads are just beautiful. There's green and then there's these stone fences. The
walls, yeah.
Like keeping in
but the cattle can't get out.
Yeah, beautiful. So what was I saying? Oh, menopause. I was saying that life is, you're going down, you're going to drift off, and you have those little points where you say, okay, hang on, I've got to bring myself back. And that's maintenance. It's not perfection. It's not beating yourself up when you go off, when going down your rabbit hole and spiraling down, dieting mindset. Well, I've blown it now. I've put on like 4 kilos, I'm back up to this weight. Might as well just throw it all out in all of that black and white, good or bad thinking. So that is maintenance. Doesn't mean you can't go through spurts of tightening up the diet and really seeing what you can squeeze out. I call it squeezing out. But finding that comfortable place is really so important, Laura.
I think as well with the acceptance piece, losing weight for a lot of people is the outward appearance. I'm going to fit in these clothes. I'm going to wear that, all of that kind of stuff. And a big part of me in acceptance, I was literally only at a party on Saturday night. One of the people there said, oh my God, these girls are so skinny. They were young girls and they were so tiny. And I was like, but look at that person, her frame. Some people are just tiny, tiny humans. They have tiny little waists. They have tiny little shoulders. They have everything about them is small feet, small hands, short in height. And that's not for someone like me to aspire to be, because my body does not look like that. All the weight aside, my frame is bigger than that. It was in that moment where I was just like, that person is looking, going, oh, they're so skinny. Oh, that's borderline, whatever she said. I can't remember what comment she made. And I was like, going like, oh, I'm so far away from looking at people and thinking those things now, where I'm just accepting of like, people are different. We are all very different and our shapes are different. And yes, we can lose weight and yes, we can not carry as much weight, but weight is not going to change your shoulders or your rib cage. It's all the things around that. So yeah, it's really interesting people's mindsets when they look at that.
Yes, and the phrase that gets thrown around, but I think in this case, because it's the phrase is be the best version of yourself. And I think that's actually a really lovely, positive phrase, be the best version of yourself. And what is the best version? And it's not just what you look like, but it's health and things that make you happy and feeling like you use your talents and, just being the best you. That's really beautiful. So before we wrap up, I would love you to share about your wedding dress photos.
I'm not engaged. I just did models for that show.
So you modelled for a wedding
dress shop. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And was that fun?
So fun. Like it's like being a princess for the day. I love it. Everything they have thought about it so well, about how a plus size bride would walk into that shop. I went and I did a reel, you'll see it on my page there, about just the practicalities of the shop that I know when I was at my max weight that I would worried about. Like, how many steps am I going to have to climb to get there? Will I be sweating? Is it a really warm environment? Their podium that you step up on when you're in your dress, is it going to support me? But they have thought of everything and it is just the most magical place. It's amazing.
Beautiful. And I was giggling in my head because being Muriel's wedding. Yes. The Aussie kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No,
of course, Stephen, that was another moment in my life where it's really powerful. I met Stephen when I was on my 2-week liver reducing diet.
Oh.
So I hadn't lost a pound. I literally had started, and I met him on the Saturday for a coffee. So our relationship started because of who we are, not how we look. And I absolutely love that was our foundation. And it wasn't that when I lost weight, I met a man, because that can feed into that psyche of when I lose weight, I'll be more attractive and I'll be this and I'll be that. But no, we met in that 2-week liver reducing diet. And I'll never forget it. We went and I was like, I'm having surgery in 2 weeks. I can't eat or drink anything, so neither can you. And we are going for a walk. And he was like, okay, off we go.
And you weren't hangry? And
no, well, I probably was. I was probably very feisty, but he didn't feel the full wrath of it.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. So thank you so much for getting up so early and looking gorgeous, because it's a lot earlier for you than this for me. It's afternoon for me. And I encourage everyone to check out your fabulous Instagram, which is
Living Life Curvaceously.
_curvaceously. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And
thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. And I'll be in touch. Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye.